This video is covering solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula, but with unreal roots, meaning imaginary or complex, or the letter i's if you recall from before. So we're going to, every one of these equations we're going to solve using the quadratic formula, and we'll get some version of an I. So again, quadratic formula, remember, is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And this is actually x equals in this one because the variable is x. The second part is we need to make sure this is 0. So that is 0, so I can continue. So then let's start plugging numbers in. So the opposite of b is negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 9 times 5 over 2 times 9, which is the a value, which is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. 4 times 4 is 16. And then minus. You notice I only have one minus, not two. So because of one minus, we're going to get a negative, right? And then 4 times 9 times 5 is 180 over our 18. So let's start simplifying even further. I get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 164 over 18. So now we have it fully pretty much simplified. We just got to now figure out our answer. But there's a negative inside the root. Remember that whenever there's a negative in the root, it's really the square root of negative 1, which means that negative pops out as an I. Recall that from when we simplified square roots using negative numbers inside. We had the I value that popped out. It's the square root of negative 1, represents the imaginary number I. So then I take the 164 and I try to factor. 2 times 82, 2 times 41, and all of these are prime, so I am done. So with this, one comes out, the other gets crossed out. If you did it with the factors or the perfect squares, 164 is 4 times 41. So then I square root both of them and I get 2 root 41. So this can be broken down as negative 4 plus or minus 2. Well, 2 what? That I that we took out, root 41 over 18. So I have negative 4 plus or minus 2i root 41 over 18. Now we said earlier that because the negative 4 in the 18 and the 2 in the 18 are able to be simplified, I have to do that. So let's divide them both by 2. So I get negative 2 plus or minus. Remember, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I can either choose one I or just I. It's up to you, doesn't matter. Square root of 41 over the 9. And because I've now simplified, that is my answer. So really, nothing changes from the last video or doing quadratic formula with irrational roots. The only difference is that now I have an I. So if there's a negative inside, that means I have an I that pops out. That's all the difference that there is. Okay? One more question, and then this will be completing that video. Second step is I need to make sure this is a 0. How do I do that? I got to add 12 to both sides. So that is a 5k squared plus the 8k plus the 11 is now set to 0. I have my a, b, and c all there. So now I want to flip my b, so that's negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 5 times 11 over the quantity 2 times 5. And now I'm just going to now simplify what I got. So I got negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus, you can see that there's only one negative, and then 4 times 5 times 11 is 220 over 10. So now let's go further. Negative 8 plus or minus 64 minus 220 is negative 156 over that 10. So on the last question we said whenever there's a negative inside, it pops out as an I. Then I take the 156. I do my stuff. So 2 and 78, 2 and 39, 3 and 13. These are all primes. So one of the 2's pop, one of the other 2's get crossed out, and what am I left? I'm left with a 26 inside. If you wanted to do it by perfect squares, then you got 1 times 156, like normal, and then 4 times 39. So again, that would be square root of 4, square root of 39, which would be 2 root 39. So this can be written as negative 8 plus or minus 2i, can't forget about that I, square root of 39, now over 10. So now if you look at it, you have the negative 8 and the 10, and then the 2i and the 10. Again, can divide them all by 2. So you get negative 4 plus or minus I, or 1i, again, it doesn't matter, square root of 39 over 5 in curly brackets. If you wanted to write these out, say you didn't want to write it as one term, you want it as 2. Remember, I get negative 4 plus the I root 39 over 5, comma, negative 4 minus the I root 39 over 5. And those would be my answers as well. You can write it singularly, or you can write it as 2. It is up to you. This concludes the video for solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula for imaginary roots using the letter I.